In the airless corridor of Chicago Stadium's locker room, 17-year-old David Martinez watched his hands being wrapped and thought he might vomit. Yellow tape wound around the young man's trembling wrists, while the roar of the crowd echoed through the walls. March 14th, 1978, the most important night of David's life. And he was alone. The man who should have been in his corner, his father, Carlos Martinez, was 9 months into a 23-month sentence at Cook County Jail. Armed robbery. David woke up every morning remembering the last words his father had told him. Son, don't fight until I get out. I won't let you step in that ring without me watching from your corner. But David hadn't stopped. He couldn't, because boxing was the only thing that reminded him his father had loved him. And now he was about to enter his first professional fight, in a corner where Carlos Martinez wasn't standing. When the locker room door opened, David's manager, 55-year-old former boxer Tony Morales, walked in. His face carried the expression David never wanted to see. Worry. Kid, Tony said, wiping his nose with a trembling hand. We got a problem. Our cornerman didn't show. Rick's wife is giving birth and he's at the hospital. David's stomach twisted into knots. What are we going to do? I'll be in your corner, of course, Tony said. But rules say we need 2 people. We got to find another cornerman. That's when a voice rose from the shadows at the end of the corridor. Deep, familiar. A voice the world would recognize. Maybe I can help. When David turned his head, he felt his heart racing. Standing in the corridor, wearing a black tracksuit with his hands in his pockets, was Muhammad Ali. Not just Muhammad Ali, the most famous athlete in the world, 3-time heavyweight champion of the world. And right now, standing at David Martinez's locker room door. Mr. Ali, Tony stammered. What are you doing here? Ali smiled. That famous, huge, room-lighting smile. I'm in town for tomorrow night's fight. But tonight, I love watching young warriors. I was waiting in the corridor and I heard your problem. Ali looked at David, into the young boxer's eyes. You got nobody in your corner, son? David tried to swallow the lump in his throat. My dad's inside, in prison. He can't be here. Ali's expression softened. There was no pity there, just understanding. My father wasn't there either, he said quietly, at many of my fights, for different reasons. But he still wasn't there. I know what it feels like. Tony jumped forward. Mr. Ali, you gotta be kidding. You can't be in this kid's corner. You're Muhammad Ali. That's exactly why I should be, Ali replied. Then he turned to David. Look, son, you might not want me in your corner. This is your fight, your moment. But tonight, you're not going to be alone. Me and Tony, we'll be with you. Do you accept? David couldn't speak. Muhammad Ali, the greatest boxer in the world, was offering to be in his corner. In the corner where his father wasn't. For a moment, it felt like a dream. Or worse, a cruel joke. Why? David whispered. Why me? Ali stepped closer and placed his hand on David's shoulder. Because every warrior deserves to know somebody's in their corner. And because fathers, champions, all of us make mistakes sometimes. But that doesn't mean you have to carry those mistakes. 15 minutes later, when David Martinez walked toward the Chicago Stadium ring, the crowd's sound suddenly changed. People weren't watching David. They were watching the man walking in his corner. Muhammad Ali, with a white towel over his shoulder, was walking in David Martinez's corner, and the stadium went insane. As he passed through the ropes, David saw his opponent, Vincent the Hammer DeMarco. 22 years old, 8-0 record, 6 knockouts, muscles pumped, confident, experienced. Unlike David, Vincent's corner was normal. 2 cornermen, his manager. Vincent looked at David, then at Ali, then back at David, with a confused expression. When the referee called David, Vincent, and their corners to the ring, Ali leaned toward Vincent and whispered, Young man, tonight you're not just fighting David. You're fighting everyone in that corner. Be ready. When Vincent stepped back, David could see the unease on his face. The psychological war had already begun. When the bell rang, David jumped into the ring, but his movements were stiff, rigid from nerves. Vincent cornered David with his first combination. Powerful punches crashed against David's guard. The crowd let out a thick, "Oh!" When the bell announced the end of the first round, David staggered back to his corner. While Tony quickly prepared the water, Ali knelt in front of David, looking into his eyes. Control your breathing, Ali said. Right now you're fighting fear, not your opponent. He's too fast, David gasped. Too strong. No, Ali answered sharply. He's more experienced than you, but you're hungrier. You want it more. You said your dad's inside. What do you want to show him? A scared kid or a warrior son? David's breathing regulated. In Ali's eyes, there was no judgment, just truth. Brutal, but necessary truth. Now listen, Ali continued. When you go out next round, wait for his every punch. Then run. Yes, run. Nothing to be ashamed of. I run too. We call it dancing. You're going to tire him out. Then in the third round, you're going to show the real David Martinez. The second round went exactly as Ali said. David ran, danced, stayed away from Vincent's punches. The crowd booed. Coward, some yelled. Fight! But David heard Ali's voice from the corner. Beautiful! Move! Let him get tired! In the middle of the third round, Vincent started getting tired. His punches slowed. His guard dropped. And David, for the first time in his life, saw an opening. Left hook, then right straight. Vincent staggered. Ali's voice exploded from the corner. Now, go in now! David threw another combination. Vincent's legs trembled. The referee stepped in, started counting Vincent. 8, 9. Vincent got up, but his eyes were blurry. When the end of the round came, David returned to his corner, smiling for the first time. Ali hugged him, despite being covered in sweat. That's my boy, Ali said. Now I see you. Now I see the warrior. The fourth and fifth rounds were war. Vincent was fighting to survive. David was fighting to prove something. Every punch was a message to his father. Watch me, Dad. I can do this without you, but I still love you. In the sixth round, David felt like he would collapse from exhaustion. His legs were heavy. His arms were lead. Vincent sent David to the corner with an uppercut. The crowd stood up. This was over. But Ali's voice came from the corner. David, look at me. Look at me. David raised his head. Ali was standing outside the ropes, his eyes locked on David's. Champions don't fall, he shouted. Champions choose to get up. Now get up. David understood something in that moment. This wasn't about winning. This was about not giving up. He pushed himself off the ropes, walked toward Vincent, tired, hurt, but undefeated. The seventh round was the fight of both their lives. Punches came from both sides. David took a left hook. Vincent took a right uppercut. Both staggered. The crowd went wild. When the bell announced the end of the final round, David and Vincent leaned on each other in the center of the ring. Both were holding each other to stay standing. The referee separated them. Waiting for the decision, David looked at his corner. Tony was crying. Ali, with that huge smile, was giving David a thumbs up. Ladies and gentlemen, the announcer said, the judges' scores: 67 to 66, 68 to 65, 66 to 67. By split decision, the winner is... David held his breath. Vincent DeMarco. The stadium erupted. Half booed, half applauded. David's knees trembled. He had lost. He had lost his first professional fight. But then Ali entered the ring. He passed the referee, Vincent, everyone, and came straight to David. He lifted the young boxer in his arms and raised him. Champion, Ali shouted to the crowd. Tonight, 2 champions entered this ring. The crowd went crazy, because Muhammad Ali was raising the losing boxer. Vincent stood in his own corner, watching with a confused look. Ali took the microphone. This young man, he said, his voice echoing in the stadium, fought without his father today. But he was never alone. Because real champions aren't measured by scores. They're measured by hearts. And tonight, David Martinez showed me what championship is. In the locker room, after the crowd dispersed, David covered his face with his hands and cried. Not from defeat, but from feeling so much. Ali sat next to him, didn't speak, just was there. I lost everything, David whispered. I lost my first fight. No, Ali answered. You lost the score, but you won the fight. You know the difference? David raised his head. The score, Ali continued, is what the referee saw. The fight is who you are. Tonight you showed you're a warrior. You fell down. You got up. You got tired. You kept going. You felt alone, but you still fought. That's championship, David. The rest is just numbers. What will my dad think? David asked. Your dad's in prison. David nodded. Ali picked up the phone. You know his number, right? The prison's number? 10 minutes later, Ali handed David the phone. Talk to your dad. I told them who I am. They gave permission to connect you. David took the phone with trembling hands. Hello? Dad? David? Carlos Martinez's voice was broken, emotional. Son, I can hear you? Dad, I lost the fight. A long silence. Then his father's voice came, this time stronger. Muhammad Ali told me he watched you fight, said he was in your corner. Son, I'm sorry. I should have been there. Dad? No, listen. Muhammad Ali told me something. He said, your son reminded me today what being a father means. Because in every punch, he was fighting for you, to make you proud. David's tears flowed down his cheeks. David, I don't want you to win. I want you not to give up. Tonight, you didn't give up. That's enough for me. You're my champion. When they hung up, David turned to Ali. Thank you. Not for being in my corner. For giving my dad a reason to call. Ali smiled. Son, I wasn't in your corner. You were in mine. Tonight you taught me. Sometimes the greatest victories come when we lose, because that's when we show who who we really are. 2 weeks later, in the visiting room at Cook County Jail, David sat across from his father, Carlos. A glass separated them. They talked through phones in their hands. "Will you fight again?" Carlos asked. "Yes," David answered. "But this time not for you, Dad, for myself. Ali taught me. You can fight for people you love, but you can't fight for their approval." Carlos closed his eyes. "I disappointed you." "No, Dad. You made mistakes, but you're still my father. Ali taught me that people aren't defined by their mistakes. They're defined by what they do after their mistakes." Carlos cried. 38 years old, in a prison jumpsuit, behind glass. But his son saw him, not for his mistakes, but for his heart. David Martinez fought as a professional boxer from 1978 to 1989. He had 34 fights, won 19, lost 15. He never became world champion. But in 1985, after his father Carlos got out of prison, Carlos stood in David's corner. His son lost the fight, but when the fight ended, Carlos lifted his son and said, "My champion." Muhammad Ali never missed any of David's fights. He wasn't in the corner, but he was in the audience, always. Because Ali understood, sometimes being in the corner isn't about being physically there. It's about someone knowing they're never alone. In 2016, at Ali's funeral, David Martinez was one of the speakers. He was 60 years old, his face carrying the marks of an old warrior. "Muhammad Ali gave me one night," he told the crowd. "But that night taught me a lifetime. Real champions aren't created in the ring. They're created in moments when you know someone's there for you. My dad was in prison. Ali was in my corner, but both taught me the same thing. Love is stronger than mistakes. Forgiveness is more valuable than victory. And sometimes the greatest fights aren't the ones we win, but the ones we don't give up." Chicago Stadium was torn down after that night, but what 3 men shared in that locker room, a legend, an old trainer, and a scared kid, was never torn down. Because real championships don't get demolished like buildings. They live in hearts, and they pass from generation to generation, each time reminding, the greatest victory isn't never falling down, it's getting up every time you fall. And the greatest cornerman isn't the one who'll make you win, but the one who'll remind you who you are.